Hello, welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dave Candito.
We're going back with some more Rambo, this time old Rambo 3. I got my Rambo headband on, too. I was wearing this at the gym. I'm like, why didn't I wear this before on the first two podcasts? I've been having this sitting here the whole time, and then I didn't even go about using it, but good old Rambo 3. I'm pulling out my DVD collection variation,
There
which,
you go.
Rambo's back. He's got his back ready. He's got the headband going and so on like that. But I kid you not, like, I know I'm watching all these Rambo movies. I think that I look at this trilogy sort of like the Star Wars trilogy where, like, I think they're all extremely good. It's like a personal preference which one you like more. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I love Rambo 3. Like, there's something about this one here that, like, every single time I watch it, I'm like, dude, I don't know what it is. Something about this one stands out to me a bunch.
So I don't want to say Rambo 3 let me down by any means, but I definitely wasn't as enthralled as I was with First Blood Part 2. Of course, I've seen First Blood a handful of times, and like there was nothing that surprised me. There was nothing that I was like waiting for or whatever. I just love that movie. It's a great movie. And we discussed how 2 was like, you know, the what do you call it? You know, when you go to the gas station and you need a coffee and they have that one coffee that's like extra extreme caffeine plus, you know, like that's how I felt with Rambo or First Blood Part 2. I was like, yes, you know, we discussed this. Everything that you had the idea that Rambo could be, and he was.
Yeah, and for some reason there's like an elk firing like a bow and arrow like on the side of the coffee cup. Doesn't make any sense, but you're like, okay, that's badass.
There's always some stupid crap on there, you know, and you have 2 sips and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get to a toilet right now. You know, that ultra caffeine, holy crap. But but yeah, so I mean, that was like even though it was a sequel, I feel like First Blood Part 2 could have been a movie to begin a franchise. Even I feel like it because it's so different from First Blood. I feel like that could have been a franchise start in itself. Rambo 3 seemed kind of like to me, of course, almost like a collection of scenes put together by Michael Bay. You know what I mean? Like, holy crap, explosion, 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 which I'm all for that. It's an action movie, for God's sakes. You know, like, you can't be upset at an action movie for having too much action. But I felt, I'll say this, I love the opening. I love the opening of Rambo 3.
I think that it's the best opening of them all. Like that whole part where he's doing the stick fight there in Thailand or whatever.
Even before that, you know, like, well, it's part of the stick fight, but the part of wrapping his fist, I feel like they showed that like 5 times. And then I feel like they showed the same part at the end of the stick fight where it was like that stare off. Looked like both of them have this massive shit that they're trying to like hold in till they get to the rest stop. But But yeah, the opening's fantastic. Stallone here, of course, you know, he's. I'm wondering if this may have been like at the peak of the climax of the what do you call it? Rivalry between the muscle rivalry between him and Schwarzenegger. Arnold. Maybe, I don't know, because Stallone, I think so far this is like the biggest you see him. You know.
I think Rambo 3 is by far his best physique, you know.
Oh yeah.
Rocky 4, he's really like cut and everything like that, but Rambo 3.
Hilarious that this is where he's like in the best shape of his life, because, you know, he's definitely put the military behind him. He's living as a fighter, of course, but he's just like a handyman, like basic dude. Excuse me. So, I mean, like, just out of nowhere, he's jacked as crap. You know,
that monster must have a good diet.
But then again, you think about First Blood Part 2, and it's like, why was he so big there too? All he was doing was breaking rocks all day. And not that he wouldn't be trim, but you think he'd be a little bit less bulky. But then again, I don't know. Never been in prison. Never broke rocks for a living. Well, technically. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, super cool opening. The of course, you know, it wouldn't be a Rambo movie if the military wasn't trying to find the world's greatest Green Beret former military member to go solve this impossible mission out in who knows where. So Colonel Trautman's after him again. And I like how apparently a full day goes by until Rambo actually has any lines. like once Trautman meets up with him after the stick fight, he tells him like, "Oh, you're gonna explain what I saw yesterday, John?"
I saw you and another man slapping sticks together.
Yeah,
I thought that was just between me and you.
It actually, I'm not sure when Bloodsport came out, but it kind of made me think of Bloodsport a little bit.
I think Bloodsport's just slightly beforehand. I want to say that's 87. And this is 88 for Rambo 3,
right.
so...
But yeah, no, that I don't know what it is. Like Bloodsport, Ong Bak, Rambo 3. Every time I see scenes where like it's somewhere in the fucking butt crack of Asia, in this case, they're in what, Thailand?
They're in Thailand to start.
That's right. Yeah. Anytime I see any of these action movies open up where, the characters in Thailand, there's some probably illegal, fighting ring, people smoking everywhere and throwing money and throwing money down on these dudes to beat the crap out of each other. I always think like this is gonna be an awesome scene. This is gonna be great. It's just like honestly, I think Ong Bak takes the cake for me when it comes to that kind of crap.
Yeah, no, Ong Bak takes that and just ramps it to like 11.
that first scene, I'm not gonna go down the Ong Bak rabbit hole here. We'll be talking about that for an hour. But that first scene where he actually defends himself in that fighting thing where that massive dude was just beating the crap out of everybody, and then he goes after Tony Jaa, and then he just immediately like like what I'm talking about, where he like goes forward and his leg comes from behind him and like knocks it out in front of him. Oh my gosh, I was like, holy crap. That's why guns were invented.
To stop that guy from getting too close to you. But my favorite. I was gonna say this real quick. The thing that I love in that movie, I don't know if it's my favorite part, but just the part is, I love the dude whose martial art is really just like throwing and breaking stuff like that. like when he has to fight, he's just like throwing teacups at him and everything like that. He flips the table at him. Like is that the dude's martial arts? Is it he just comes in? He's like, dude, I gotta have a bunch of objects around. I'm like that guy when you play like WWF, and I just only find the weapons and just start smacking everybody around with them. Like I don't do any normal wrestling moves or anything like that.
That was the guy that he Tony Jaa, he didn't even want to fight him. He was trying to like get out of there or get the head back, the statue on the head, and they just kept pressuring me like, oh, you're gonna fight this guy, you're gonna fight. He's like, no, I don't want to fight him. And then he's like groping a girl and like slapping her around. He's like, yeah, like, you're still not gonna fight me? Then finally he's like, all right, fine. And of course he beats the guy's ass, and then your results to throwing crap.
I just love that bit. It's just like it feels like that was why he went to school. He trained that martial arts discipline for like 10 years. The art of throwing shit. Which maybe it is because in Final Fantasy there's always like that character that you get, which is a lot of times a ninja, where like they have the skill that's throw, and it's just anything you have in your inventory you can throw at the enemy.
Or like in Final Fantasy X, Waka, it throws a beach ball.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not a beach ball, but that's the only Final Fantasy I've played completely all the way through, and I like that game a lot, but a lot of it is really freaking silly, just like Waka. Like I always thought, like there could be something cooler than this guy throwing a stupid ball, but hey, what do I know?
Well, see that's the first Final Fantasy. It's not made by the guy who created Final Fantasy. So,
of course.
so that's why there's that kind of like almost like drastic change when 10 comes out,
Huh. Interesting. But yeah, going back to Rambo 3 here. I thought the opening was super cool, and then from there, I feel like the movie, as far as like dialogue tone, I thought it was really monotone for kind of the rest of the film. That said, there's a lot of like parts in the movie where I'm really entertained, where I thought, oh, this is kind of funny. It almost seems like to me this it could have been like it was almost like a parody action film, but it's not a parody.
Yeah, like, it's not Hot Shots Part Deuce.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Kind of like the scene where Trautman, of course, he comes out to get Rambo again, And I think it's pretty clear that that's how Rambo feels about it, because when he sees him walking up there, he's working on this whatever structure he's at, and he's like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" And,
yeah, because this guy doesn't just visit.
No, hey Rambo, how's it going? No, he wants Rambo to come do whatever the hell he wants him to do, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing this." He's like, "It's gotta, I thought there's still a war out there, John." He's like, "The war's over for me. I got to call it quits sometime." And I love how Trautman actually goes against what he said in First Blood. And of course it's to fit the narrative. It's to get the movie going. But in First Blood, what's his name? I can't remember the name, but the sheriff.
Teasel.
Yeah. Teagle, yeah. He says something like, can't believe God would create such a guy like this, or would make a guy like this. And then that's where Trautman makes his interest. God didn't make it, Rambo. I did, and here in when he's talking to him, he's talking about I didn't make you the warrior you are, John. You've always been, Yeah,
it's like we carved you out of, it's like we had a stone statue and we just carved down to sawed off the rough edges and everything. I also love how Trautman really peer pressures
hardcore
Rambo, because he comes in and at first he's like, "Hey, we got this job in Afghanistan. You probably never heard of it, Rambo. You've been out here for so long, but let me fill you in on this, And then he leaves and he comes back later on and he almost does the thing let's be honest, this is stupid what you're doing here. Nobody cares about the monastery. You got talent. What are you doing out here? You know what I mean? Do they even speak the same English? Yeah, you're good at killing. That's the only thing you're good for. You know what I mean? He's like, "Well, I like with my hands." It's like, no, you need to be killing people, Rambo. No. Don't be building stuff. Don't be doing nice things for people. You're like, no.
I'll tell you why this is hilarious to me.
Osama bin Laden's out there, and he needs some saving right now.
Yeah, exactly. Al Saddam. Okay. Yeah. What's hilarious about this is the peer pressuring on, come on, man, we need you. You're the only one. You got to do this. You're the best. You don't want this life. Go back to what you're made for. It makes me think of the being in the military, in the support role that I was in, all of the different trade work, all the different whatever you can do. And it's probably for every branch kind of has this whole thing I'm about to say, but you got all these different skills and trades that you can get into, get your feet wet in the military, right? You do your few years. If that's all you do, you get out of the military and you can use that as a civilian, whether you still need some schooling or training or whatever, you go into that and cool, you got a decent job, maybe. And you always hear, in movies or TV shows or just whatever that's pro-military, we have the best men and women out there getting this stuff done. They're highly trained and this and blah, blah, blah. Well, then while you're in and it gets closer to you getting out of the military these days does not have very good retention rates. So people are leaving, I guess in record numbers, maybe, I don't know. But when I was in, it was they were trying real hard to get people to stay in. And there'd be times where I had a couple NCOs tell me that, you sure you want to get out, man? Because life's hard out there. It's, it's a lot of people just don't make it. And I'm thinking, well, are you sure? Because another thing they tell you is it's only 1% of citizens in this country join the military, and even less than that join the Air Force. Well, then if all these other people are making it work, I think I might be okay, especially since I've had all this amazing training and I'm the best of the best, right? But I was thinking of all that while I was watching that scene. It's just, yeah. Come on, Rambo, do what you're good at. I like what wins,
It reminds me that scene in Godfather 3 when Al Pacino's all just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's really what it is. It's John Rand, he just wants this peace and quiet, and nobody lets him do it. First Blood, he just wants something to eat. He just wants to chill. He wanted to visit his buddy, but apparently his buddy has been dead. And then of course everybody has to hassle him and so on like that. Technically Rambo 2, I guess, is one of those ones. He does the job because it's it's a way to get out of prison.
Yeah, there was that, and then yeah, so he questions Trautman, you know, like, or I don't know if he necessarily asked him or if Trautman just came out with it about like, oh yeah, you know, I really believe in it, and that's why I'm going over there myself, and you know, which could very well just be a freaking lie, of course, to get Rambo to do whatever he wants, but it's not a lie for the sake of the movie, and this I thought was hilarious too. So once they cut to, you know, Trautman being over in Afghanistan, I don't think it's a scene any longer than about 40 seconds before the group of dudes that he's with just gets like annihilated by a Russian helicopter.
Yeah, this helicopter's flying up and over, like, we know exactly where you are. Starts blasting everybody around him except for Trautman. Trautman seems to survive. Be like, okay, put down your weapons. This is the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and then you know, once he gets captured, then it goes straight over to back to Rambo's Thailand sanctuary, whatever. And the dude that was with Trautman,
yeah, Kurtwood
like,
Smith,
just shows up again to just, you know, like, let Rambo know, hey, yeah, he got captured. All right, see you later, right? You know, it's like that I thought was so hilarious because, of course, then it's a bait and switch, you know,
yeah.
And I imagine that dude after he turns around and starts walking away, just like,
got him.
He's gonna get him, you know. And you know, Rambo's just like, wait a minute, what happened? Like, and then it's like, of course, all right, I'll go. It's like, it wouldn't surprise me if the plan, you know, was like, all right, we're gonna send Trautman in to get captured, so that Rambo goes.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Come on, it's Kurtwood Smith. He's the guy who shot RoboCop. Eric Foreman's dad, you know.
But yeah, but that was I thought that was hilarious too. And then of course that's where it goes into what you would expect in a similar fashion, I suppose, to First Blood Part 2. However, what this movie didn't have that First Blood Part 2 did was, of course, a lot of action movies, I guess, didn't have that famous gear up scene, you know, where these, you know, load himself up with everything and, you know, everything you could think of, and then to immediately lose it all. But, you know, it gets back to a little bit of comic relief that's not super silly, but it's enough, and it's I guess it reinforces Rambo's character of being no nonsense, but where he's walking through Afghanistan and he meets his contact. Who are you? Are you military? No. Are you tourist? I'm not no tourist. And so on and so forth. But I mean, from there on, there was just kind of pockets of things that would really catch my attention as I'm watching this movie. I don't know. Like I said, I felt a little monotone, like I said, with the tone and dialogue.
Yeah. Well, it does take a moment from like, okay, you have the initial action and all that stuff in the beginning and the stick fight and Rambo getting called to action and so on like that. And once he gets to Afghanistan, there is like, it doesn't feel like it's super long. And it's not that there's not action in this scene, but there's almost like a lull before it gets to like, I guess you would say the Soviet battling action.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's in there, you know, he's talking to the Afghanis. They're telling him about what's going on, about how this is a holy war and so on like that. You know, he has that scene where they play that game where it's like, well, okay, so we just take a dead sheep corpse and just, you know, and of course Rambo's like, he's like, I prefer football.
Yeah,
which I just feel like I hate to sort of say it, like I don't picture Rambo actually being into football, to tell you the truth. Like, you know, like that doesn't feel like, I know he's American, but like that doesn't seem like a Rambo sport. I feel no. Maybe hockey or something like that. I don't know, but
I don't even think of Rambo as a guy who likes sports in general.
Yeah, I have a hard time picturing him liking sports.
I have a hard time imagining Rambo like getting excited about anything except for fighting.
Yeah, because you know, from Trautman, he's a born killer. We just shaved around, we waited rough edges. Yeah. You know,
but I don't. Yeah, it's like for some odd reason, I almost feel like the Punisher would like have more fun at a sports game than Rambo. But then again, I don't know. That's kind of out of left field there. But No, I thought that was kind of hilarious too, where they're talking about the game that they're playing with the sheep, picking that thing up and throwing them. Where he says like, "Well, why do they throw it in the circle?" Oh, because it's there, or whatever.
All I gotta think is that this sport right here is probably the most offensive sport you could play in front of a bunch of vegans.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I kept thinking about the whole scene in general.
It's like one's like, you're not even gonna eat that animal? No.
No way. And what's kind of funny too is that one scene that's kind of a slow-mo, I think, where it shows Rambo leaning over to grab he grabs it, and then as soon as he does and he pulls it up, you could tell it's definitely not a sheep. It's like a giant animal. That was pretty funny. And then there's that kid too, who I guess is kind of one of the main characters. Ultimately, the kid that he's asked him a million freaking questions, which actually, I was only in Jordan, but when we left the base a few times, I remember going to a little. It was a store. It was a store. It was like a giant gift shop. All kinds of things you could buy. I mean, jewelry, lamps, TVs. It was just some random store, but a lot of it was for tourism. And of course, there's kids walking around. Well, Mister, can I have this? I'm like, no, no, you cannot have my name tag. Like, like crap like that.
Yep.
But and the bartering, like that shit's real. Always, it's actually offensive if you don't barter with them. Like if you would just buy something, and not have it. Like it's part of their culture. Is like, oh well, I give you this. So for that, my friend, I give you the. Like I had a dude say that to me multiple times. This crappy bracelet that I got for my wife, had a price on it of like 60, 70 dinar. And how much is this, sir? Because maybe the next one didn't have a price. Oh, this one, very good stone, precious stone, 160 dinar. But for you, my friend, 10 dinar. I'm thinking like, this thing's worthless. You're going to drop that much off of it just because I'm your new friend? Like, yeah, I don't know about that. But no, his character I thought was pretty spot on. Honestly, that kind of surprising to me, but a lot of it was not as, I don't think it would be as culturally insensitive today as you might think. I don't know. I could be full of crap, but from what I've seen, I don't think it was. I think they did a pretty good job portraying the people in the village and everything, especially that kid. But
yeah, no, I think so too. And it's one of those ones like there was like that moment where, because this movie's very pro Afghanistan, and then all of a sudden when 9/11 kind of happens and so on like that, it's like, oh, Afghanistan. Well, oh geez, it's that and the fact that like this is something that like you would have never noticed except for if you saw it when it first came out. But like when this movie came out, it was like 2 months after like the peace negotiations between the Soviet Union and like the U.S. and Soviets pulled out of Afghanistan and everything like that. So this is almost like Rambo's a little bit late to the party. In hindsight, nobody notices that. I feel like that's one of those ones 6 months later, by the time the thing's on VHS, nobody notices it, nobody cares. But there's just that little window where like it's like, oh, you kind of missed the boat on that there, Stallone.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
That's okay, because once again, when we're watching it nowadays, it's what it is.
It's pretty interesting. I was looking at the numbers on like the production costs and then versus what it made and everything. I think one thing that the film probably suffered from a lot was opening at the same time as Crocodile Dundee 2.
Yeah, because people forget how big of a movie those Crocodile Dundee things were.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that if that movie didn't come out at least in the same month, maybe, I think Rambo 3 could have done a lot better in that alone. But, I don't know.
Well, that's the weird thing, too, because this movie, it's like, okay, it cost like $63 million to make. And then I think the box office. Yeah, 190. The thing was, though, is that Rambo 2 made like 450. So that's what they were expecting. So this movie is actually, Rambo 3 is actually extremely profitable, extremely successful. But compared to Rambo 2, it seems like it's just like a drop in the pan. People were really hoping out for that. I think that the other downfall is when Rambo 2 came out, that movie was really like ahead of the curve. That was like setting the new standard for action movies and so on like that.
Oh, yeah.
And realistically, in the years up to Rambo 3, you have a lot of, in a sense, Rambo-like movies. Missing in Action, Commando, you know, and then even just other just action movies in general, you know. So it's just that kind of build up, you know.
Well, honestly, I mean, I think that for as much as I didn't enjoy this movie as much as I did First Blood Part 2, I think it'd be very difficult. I don't care if it's Stallone in the movie, Schwarzenegger, Dolph Lundgren, whatever action star you want. I think it'd be very hard to top First Blood Part 2 anyway, even without the competing with Dundee Part 2 at the same time, because I think they were released on like one day after another or something like that.
They probably came out the same weekend.
Yeah. And like even if they weren't competing with that, even if, I don't know, for whatever reason, if people didn't like quite as much, I think that First Blood Part 2 is a pretty hard movie to top when it comes to an action movie or just another movie in that franchise. In fact, so far, I would say that's my favorite out of the franchise. I've never seen Last Blood, so I don't know. I have a feeling I might like it still a little more than Last Blood, but I feel like I had to give the credit to Rambo 3 to, you know, like the credit where it's due, coming from where it did. I mean,
yeah, no, that's definitely true there. I do think that like Rambo 3 does take the Rambo character and goes kind of even farther. Like it makes him even more larger than life and stuff. And just the fact that you give him okay, you've kind of taken him out of the Vietnam era. Now he's fighting, you know, he's still fighting Soviets, I guess.
That's the thing too. He was a jungle fighter. Being Green Beret, I mean, it's not like his skills are worthless or anything outside of the jungle, but he's never experienced desert warfare. You know, like he didn't have any training in any of that before he went to go rescue Trautman. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that's going through my head while I'm watching the movie. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. Like he's definitely a capable guy, but he's not running through the jungle. He's not running through the forest in Oregon. Like those two are at least very relatable. Whoops.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy's out in the open, in the desert, in an environment he's never been in. You know, but still doing all those Rambo things. But then once again, we can't have a Rambo movie where the guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So, you know what I mean? You can't just have this guy totally neutered and like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. But so I get that, of course. Once again, always reminding myself, you know, these guys are superheroes. You know what I mean? Like they're the superheroes before we got all the superhero movies. Within reason, you know, of course, there were still some superhero movies back then, but not like today.
Yeah, no. It definitely was. You know, these were the heroes. Was, you know, a lot of times your war heroes type characters and so on. And Rambo's definitely like almost the kind of pinnacle of all that, you know. But yeah, so he's out there. He's in the desert warfare. They do have some kind of cool scenes where like when he's sneaking in to get Trautman because Trautman's being captured and tortured for information and so on. And the part where they're crawling into the base, very Metal Gear like.
Even before that, the scene where you know, he's with that village, and like I'm pretty sure they all agreed to like go help him, right? And then you know, they all get just blown away.
That helicopter comes by again, just, you know, those Soviet helicopters flying by that just love blasting the place up.
Oh yeah, and this definitely is a film where like it gives the character those, like you said, larger than life moments where, you know, Rambo has they're all being attacked, so he makes a run for that big turret, you know, and uses it to blow up one helicopter, and then the other helicopter comes for him, you know, shoots the turret, but then once the smoke clears, there's no Rambo. It's like, what superpowers does he have here? But But yeah, no, but these are cool scenes. I mean, with the lack of, yeah, I don't even know, man. I want to at least be able to back up my claims of, like feeling monotone or something, but I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's the fact that First Blood Part 2 had him going back to a very similar, if not the same environment, because I think if I remember right, he didn't go immediately to Vietnam. He went to like, not Thailand. He went to one of the neighboring countries.
Yeah, because they had to go like Cambodia or something. Like,
I think it's Cambodia or something. But anyway,
sneak their way in.
Yeah, like he goes in and then he sneaks his way in. He's in familiar territory, right? And then there's a love interest who isn't immediately a love interest, but there's chemistry building. And I love the scene with him talking. They're talking about him and Ko Bao are not exactly two wildly different kind of people. They do what they do for similar reasons. They come from different places, right? And she tells him like, this is what I have for luck. And then, what do you have for luck? Oh, my giant fucking knife, and, but there's like moments of real connection, I think. And not that there's not that with him and the Afghanistan people, but, it just, I don't know, it didn't quite hit home as well. And I think maybe it's just because there's so much else going on. Within reason, I guess. It just seemed a little busier and less focused to me. But yeah, I mean, once the place gets blown up and he saves a few people here and there, and there's still some people alive there, or there's no point. You don't want to go to the base. No, of course he's going to the base. He's got to go save Trautman. And yeah, I love the when he goes over there and he does that low crawl. And of course the other guy gets his ass stuck or whatever, or
yeah,
almost blows himself up with that grenade, tripwire. It's like, were you not just watching this dude? Like, you're crawling with your ass all up in the air. But
yeah, you got your belt. Yeah, the little kid shows up because child soldiers are thing. So it's like, if Rambo doesn't understand this yet, so
yeah. But yeah, no. I'll tell you what, though, if there's one thing this movie did really, really well, it was all the explosions.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of that.
Whoa. I think it had more than First Blood Part 2.
Yeah, it definitely does. The First Blood Part 2 has a lot of explosions. Sometimes I kind of wondered, is it also, too, it sounds weird, but the desert environment? Because a lot of times I feel a jungle is a lot more interesting. And, of course, like the woods in the first movie, I sometimes like that, because like something, a desert, you can only do so much of a desert. And I do notice that a lot of times I can sometimes get slightly bored, even though I think desert stuff's very cool, but I can also get kind of bored of it too at the same time. Like, in like, is it like your background kind of environment and so on like that?
Yeah.
It's even like, as much as I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, I always think that movie starts to drag a little bit when they get to Cairo. And it's only because it's like the first part, the movie starts off and they're in the jungle in whatever, South America. Then he's in San Francisco teaching school. Then he's in Nepal. Then he's in Cairo. Then he's in Cairo. Then he's in Cairo. You know what I mean? And it just sort of stays there. It's like, it was like, you set me up with so much world traveling, and then all of a sudden we stopped, And don't get me wrong, Cairo's cool, but like, I don't know. Maybe my anticipation was high that we're going to be traveling all over these places here, and so
as long as you're not pulling the Transformers too, you're in the Smithsonian, you bust through a wall, and now you're in a desert.
Yeah, maybe one of those things. But there might be a little bit of that. I will say the other thing too is comparatively to like the Soviet villain that's in Rambo Part 2. The Soviet villain in the third one is just kind of there. I feel like he's nothing real threatening, nothing real like, I don't know. He's not chewing enough scenery, and so he's not bad by all means. But
Trautman,
he just feels like,
I don't know, but Trautman doesn't even seem to be in that bad of shape.
No, he's not really getting that much torture comparatively.
But I don't know. The I love when Rambo gets to the holding cells and like goes up to the gates with the girls in it, and they tell him where Trautman is. He goes and almost frees Trautman.
America.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like he gave him like this like fake out, like grabs the keys, doesn't release them, release.
No.
He comes back for him, but still, I was like, damn, really?
Yeah, does that. Well, I also like too, he literally gets about like 2 feet away from Trautman, and then of course the little kid comes up, and the little kid's being followed. So the little kid blows that entire sneaking mission of cover is totally blown by that kid, because when, you know, Rambo goes to throw the knife, which seems like, oh, there we go, I stealthily took care of him. Well, hold on a second. The guy's holding on to the trigger as he's going down, and the alarm goes off. The Soviets are running all over the place, and then next thing you know, Rambo's literally got to Rambo his way out of this place by blasting the living daylights.
So,
you know, Trautman going, go on, Rambo, I'm fine in here. You know, they're just tickling me with a feather. It's not that bad.
That when he got to that base, and from then on out, like, I thought that was a return to like what you'd really expect from the Rambo, from a Rambo scene or story or whatever. You know, like there's that little bit of espionage action in there. It's kind of like, you know, once again, it's one more thing that made me think of Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid, you know, now he's in that like meat and potatoes of his mission. He's doing what he really came there to do. Not all this fluff, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty clear cut at this point what's going to happen for the rest of the movie. I guess when this came out, you could have guessed either Rambo's going to get captured and tortured, like in First Blood Part 2. He's going to rescue them. Trautman's going to die. Like, there's a lot of variables. You know, like, there's a lot of things that could have happened. But obviously, we know what happened. So, you know, he rescues them, but they still got to fight their way out. And then, of course, that ding-dong kid, you know, he gets shot in the leg. And not only does he compromise a mission, but he also gets wounded. So Rambo's got to save him and Trautman now in worse circumstances, and those women in the holding cell that he eventually goes back for.
Yeah, and you know, Rambo takes some shrapnel right into the side, but keeps on trucking.
Oh, man. So he gets that giant, I think it was just a big old stick.
Yeah,
because he breaks it. But and then he later on, after he gets the kid to safety, gets him taken away, he's in a cave, or he's somewhere under. He might be back in one of those buildings or something, or holding. So I don't know, but he's somewhere. And of course, you know, one more scene that my wife questions me about. You know, would that really work? That seems dangerous? That seems wrong. Of course it's wrong. Like,
of course it's dangerous.
Well, for what's hilarious is he takes one bullet, even if it's an AK-47 bullet. It's not that big. The whole cartridge is only like that. He takes the bullet out, pours what gunpowder's in there, which isn't very much.
Yeah.
Pours it into his wound, lights it on fire, and it's like, it's almost like there was a firecracker in his gut. And it's pretty hilarious. It's pretty cool.
It's a pretty cool special effect, actually.
It's a cool scene, but really silly. God, I feel like I'd knock myself out doing that. I feel like I would pass out doing something like that. But that'd be hilarious to see in like a parody film where you've been shot and you're taking care of your wound, and you do that kind of thing. Like, I think you see that similar kind of thing in the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh,
in the very beginning. But that'd be hilarious. You know, like the dude just like patches himself up and lights it on fire, and then he's just like sitting there screaming until he passes out. But because it's, you know, like, maybe not for a purebred warrior, but for the average guy, like that.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. You're going to be screaming, or crying, or both. But yeah, so he does that, and then of course he takes that Forton. You know, he takes that place on full charge, and him and Trautman just start taking people out, doing what they know how to do. The master and the grasshopper.
Yeah, go to town. You're gonna fight off the whole Soviet army there.
And I love that. So he gets he frees the girls, and then a couple dudes. One of them dies, of course. They get in the helicopter.
Yeah, one guy's hanging from the helicopter. Rambo's like, get him, and then he gets shot. And Trautman's like, well, he fell.
And I like how he flies them to like relative safety, I guess. And they're like, oh, we got to go to the border. He's like, no, stay here. So I'm thinking, like, are you sure that's a good idea? Because I'm pretty sure the Russians are probably going to go there. Like,
yeah.
And then sure enough, they do. But of course, these people are nowhere to be seen. Whatever. And then of course there's a big fight with Rambo and the huge dude, the huge Russian, and that I think was the best. That had to have been the best action scene in the whole movie. Why do I say this? Because for two reasons here. So I think it's before that guy. Yeah, it's before he fights that big giant Russian guy. But him and Trautman fall down that hole, and then they come and bomb that hole. As Rambo's going down in it, he right as he jumps in, and all of a sudden there's just huge, massive flames, huge explosion, and then Rambo. It's like one of those perfect action sequences, where he's running away and there's just world-ending fire right behind him, and goes ahead and jumps, and Travis like, "You're all right." It's like, God, I sure hope so. But that was such a ridiculously awesome shot there, and it's not a quick thing either. It was like a 2-minute scene. It was. There was a lot of, I would say suspense, but Rambo's not going to die. But I thought that was cool. And then, of course, where he fights that giant Russian up and on top of that same hole, there's the rope that was down there that Rambo climbed out of. And then the guy, he hangs him, but then he also blows him up at the same time that he's being hanged. It kind of made me think of that Austrian Death Machine, the parody band.
Yeah, a great band.
Triple Brutal. I thought it was Triple Brutal.
Yeah, the third album.
Yeah, but no, that was it was just like a straight grenade fest from that whole end of the movie there, and then of course him and Trautman thinking they're going to get rolled over by the Russians again, but then all of a sudden the Afghans on their horseback show up to save the day.
Yeah, they take those helicopters out just with the horses and everything and so on like that, because they got the fighting spirit, that these people can't be pushed out of their country, which is true because they still are there. No matter what, Soviets, Americans, nope, they're not going to take any of that.
But yeah, no, I have to say it is kind of bittersweet because that's the last time you see Trautman.
Yep.
Because I guess he died. I mean, from there, it's probably 20, 30 years later, he died in real life. But I remember watching Rambo 4 and thinking, I wonder why Trautman wasn't in it. And then I read about it. I'm like, oh, it's because he's dead. But
yeah, he's a little bit older than Stallone anyways and so on, I guess. But yeah, kind of a bummer there. It is just kind of a bummer, though, that this was the last Rambo for a long time. Yeah. I mean, literally, I thought about it, dude, it's literally 20 years before Rambo 4. I think exactly, because if this one's 88, I think Rambo 4 is 2008.
Yeah, it is 2008, actually. Gosh, thinking about that movie versus Rambo 3, they're very, very different.
Yeah, exactly. But also at the same time, too, it's just it's kind of a bummer that there was no, you could have had Rambo going on other missions in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
You could have taken that character kind of anywhere. Just because I think that's what makes Rambo 3 kind of, I think, does stand out to me, is the fact that, you've pulled this character out of his classic environment of Vietnam jungle kind of things. Yeah. And you go, well, here's Rambo, same character, but he's in a brand new environment with brand new enemies for the most part, Soviets, I guess, still. But, where you could send him on all kinds of interesting things. But I think the downfall is because action movies literally shift. Literally at the same time that Rambo 3 is going on, Die Hard comes out. And Die Hard is the one that kind of changes the way that action movies will be in the 90s. So Rambo 3 is almost the tail end. There is some other ones too, but it's kind of that's the swan song of the 80s action, and Die Hard becoming the beginning of what's going to be. Because a lot of times there's a lot of action movies in the 90s, but if you think about most of the action movies in the 90s, they're more regular guys stuck in extraordinary circumstances type things.
Yeah.
Not the best of the best warriors, not the, the high end, all that stuff. Because big action movies are Con Air, of course, all the Die Hards, even things for
thinking about Arnold's Weapon.
Yeah, True Lies, even though that one's kind of
So it was in 92. But yeah, there's a lot of like I said, it was Lethal Weapon 3 kind of, well, it's a buddy cop film, but you know, just one more that is in the 90s that is really nothing like that Rambo 3. It's like Rambo 3 is still, I was just thinking about a lot of the Arnold films. There's a lot of I was gonna say almost Disney level comedy, but it's just a lot better.
Oh yeah, because once again, Stallone kind of has. It's not that his lines are bad, but like he does have those like very stilted kind of like they're not as like cheeky almost as like Schwarzenegger's.
Well, and it's the Rambo films are just so. I guess it's an inherent thing, but it's that sense of American pride, Even in First Blood, I mean, it's not a happy movie by any means, and Rambo's technically not his fault, but he ends up being a criminal. But I mean, still, it's that pride for country, pride for the armed forces, the veterans, and blah blah blah. And Rambo 3 is the message is quite different. I mean, it kind of says it all in the tagline on the movie poster. The first one was for himself, the second was for country, and the third's for his friend.
Yeah, pretty much, because he is just going in there to save Trautman. At the same time, he happens to help out this Afghani army because he just blows away a bunch of Soviet equipment along the way. But that wasn't really the initial purpose he showed up there for.
No, like he was getting nothing out of it. Gosh, what was it? Just like the guy told him in the beginning, like, this is unofficial. If you die, like you die. Like we're not going in to save you. It's like, oh, what else is new? I think he said, like, I'm used to that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what always happens to Rambo. It's just like, mostly it doesn't work out well for me. I'm the patsy,
Now, I wonder, once again, I think I said this before, but who would have made a better Rambo? I think the answer is always going to be Stallone anyway. But or I'm sorry, not who would have made a better Rambo, but who would have made a better operative for these films, John Rambo or John Matrix? I almost feel like John Matrix is too much of a. It's like using a game shark,
He's overpowered.
I mean, when you think about it, if you watch Commando, because I feel like that's Arnold's closest, I would say John Matrix and crap, I forgot
John
his name.
Rambo?
I forgot his name from
Dutch?
Predator. Dutch, yeah. So I feel like Dutch and John Matrix are the closest roles that Arnold did to Rambo. In Commando, I don't think there's a single scene where he's like captured and like really about to get his crap, like beat the crap out of him. There's only, where he reaches a stalemate, because he can't, if he tries to pull anything, they're going to kill his daughter. So his hands are tied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then near the end of the movie where he fights, where he fights the guy, his old comrade, and kills him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fight that you would expect. It's not, even though that guy seemed like he was super out of shape and like seemed like he's no match for John Matrix, he still kind of is.
Yeah.
Like in that whole movie, I don't think there was a single scene where like he's like he might die.
he gets technically captured, I guess, in the beginning that sets him off on the crusade. Because
but that's what I was saying. That's what I mean. Like he couldn't.
But he still takes out like 3 guys like in the process.
Yeah, and I think the main reason why he didn't go harder than he did was because they had his daughter.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's in that kind of realm. There's no contest, but I still think Rambo is the character that you just can't beat Rambo.
No, Rambo's pretty darn solid, you know. I mean, it's almost kind of probably my favorite kind of Stallone movies, really, at the end of the day. I don't remember, I love Rockies and I love all kinds of other ones.
So far, I would say the Rambo flicks are my favorite Stallone movies, too.
You know, I just really enjoy those, especially once again, just watching all three of them back to back. You know, I hadn't watched them in a moment, and as I said, for me, it's like I look at them like I actually like all three of them pretty darn equally. I like them each one for different ones.
They are very different from each other.
You know, there's pros and cons, you know, in each one, you know, depending on how you want to go about it. But yeah, I just think they're real solid. And it is, and once again, I remember, you know, that whole 90s period and so on, even like the 2000s. Remember there was a point there was supposed to be like a Rambo comeback in like the early 2000s, and especially after 9/11 there's supposed to be that one where Rambo's, I thought it was more of like they were just saying it for PR, but where Rambo was going to go track down Osama bin Laden. He's going back to Afghanistan. He knows the territory.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know what I love about Rambo 2? He just always finds a rocket launcher.
Yeah, exactly. He's just
everywhere he goes.
Gonna blow something up, you know.
The yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to seeing Last Blood, because like I said, I haven't seen that one. I'm actually really looking forward to watching Rambo as well, because I thought that movie was so freaking cool.
Yeah, Rambo 4 is really awesome. I'll say this: Last Blood it's kind of just a different style movie. You know, it's interesting. You know, I actually don't think I've seen it since cinemas when it first came out, but I did like it. It's just it's different. You know, you almost have to. It has a lot of Rambo elements, but it's actually, you know, it's an interesting way that one goes about. You know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's actually a director's cut of that movie too, and I'm going to try to track down that version to see, or an extended cut or whatever it is.
I can tell you this, as much, probably something we should go over after we finish all of them, but that's the way I feel right now, is as much as I would have liked there to have been at least another in between from 3 to 4. I'm just glad they never made like a series, you know.
Well, they have the animated series on in the 80s.
That I didn't know.
There's a Rambo cartoon show after Rambo 2.
Well, I'm talking about live action show, man. I'm finding myself closer and closer to how you feel about, you know, some of these series. It's like, why? Wasting time.
Well, and I hate to sort of say it, a lot of times whenever they take like a good movie and they're like, we're going to turn it into a TV show, I'm just like, just sounds like the budget's going to be diluted and you're just going to put a whole lot of filler in there. And yeah. And so many of those ones too, it's like, I hate to sort of say it, a lot of times people, they think they can write TV, and it's like, dude, you had like a good enough idea for one movie, not 10 episodes.
Well, what sucks too is sometimes that destroys a franchise. Like the Halo show, man. I mean,
yeah, that one's always such a bummer, because the fact is that they screwed the pooch so bad on that. Because remember, like when Halo 3 came out, that was when the talks of like Peter Jackson doing a Halo movie and everything like that. And the thing was, that was when Halo was at its pinnacle of popularity. And the downfall is, by the time that Halo show came out, I hate to sort of say it, but Halo's now kind of like it's like a back burner game. No, it's like one of those ones. It's like the only people that like Halo are people that really like Halo.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not a mainstream game anymore.
No, and it's such a bummer, because I think there was still a little bit of life, you know, in the franchise when that was out, when that was announced, because Infinite wasn't out for very long, and even if you're not a big television watcher, if you're a big Halo fan, you've been like, cool. Yeah. Because the previews made it look freaking awesome. And I'm not gonna lie, the cinematics were fantastic. The show was beautiful visually.
Yeah, well, that first episode was really dialed in.
Yes.
And
I
then
can pick that apart too. Like when somebody's on top of a 50 cal and they're shooting an elite, but it doesn't do anything. It only does something when Master Chief's the one using that same gun.
Yeah, but, that's just video. That's video game logic. We all know that if you watch anybody, it's not you in a video game trying to do something, they're useless until you have to do it all.
Yeah, of course. But that and of course the decision. Who made this decision? It's another case of people not using any source material. You know what I mean? Master Chief taking his helmet off in the first episode. You know, it's like
it's just
it's something that I don't think I'd care as much if Master Chief had taken his helmet off at all in the video game.
Yeah,
you know,
he should just take his pants off. You know,
but yeah, no. So I think that, like I said, when you mess up a show that's so, for a franchise that's so acclaimed, and that has so many fans, loyal fans, new fans, it's like the next time you try to release something like that, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great, sure, whatever. You know what I mean?
Because once you kind of burn somebody, that's always a tough one.
And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm glad that they didn't do something like that with Rambo. And, you know, once again, who knows? Maybe they could have, and it would have been great. But usually they're not there with. I mean, we've talked about it before. There's very few shows that you can really say are like perfect. My favorite television show of all time is The X-Files. And even that, there's things that I think are not perfect. Namely, the last 2 seasons they came out with that were like revivals, more or less.
Yeah, but let's be honest, those seasons are actually way farther in the future. They're not like...
Yeah.
You know.
They are. It's just the way they literally changed the story, like, for the rest of the whole show. Like, in the very last season, they changed something that I don't get it, and I won't get into it, but it was kind of weird. And then that, and I'm not gonna lie, Breaking Bad is actually a television show that I think there's absolutely zero things wrong with. It was like any loose end that there could have been, they filled, or they tied up. There's no voids that are like missing content or whatever. It's I think it's a perfect show. And
it's funny because Breaking Bad is one of those ones, like, I think that shows that, to me, it's like half the show is extremely good and the other half I don't care for, because I don't like a lot of the side characters. I think that was what kind of blocked. Sure. I think if it's Walt and if it's Jesse, except for Jesse at the end's a little bitch, but I will be honest. There's parts of that show that were painful for me to watch, either of boredom or just wanting it to be done so I could go on with the rest of it. Yeah, like I just feel like the retarded son, the stupid wife, the stupid wife's sister. Like, there was a lot of characters I just like whenever, and like they would always give them. I think that's also what kind of kills a lot of TV shows for me. If that was just Walter White and Jesse and just them on their miscellaneous adventures, I think it'd be like, oh, this would be great, because that's all the stuff whenever it was that. Yeah. The show was like firing on all cylinders. Once you started getting to all the side characters, I was like, these side characters are really annoying. I'm just waiting for them to die, and they never die. Fair enough.
I think what honestly is arguably could be a better show is Better Call Saul.
Yes, I thought that was actually the more dialed-in version. Because it's what I feel is exactly what you're talking about. The characters that you want to watch are pretty much going to be in the show only, you know. Of course, you got the cameos from the people that were in the other show and whatever, some of the same people that are recurring. But I also like that character a lot, Mike. Yeah. The former cop. Yeah, he was one of my favorite characters. Saul's great. Like, see, that's like all those.
Bob Odenkirk is a great freaking character.
Yeah, those are all like the good characters. And so, as I say, all it takes is a couple of like junk characters that like it kind of can bring down a show. And that's the only reason, like, as much as I almost feel like Breaking Bad, it sounds weird, it would have been made for a better probably movie or a couple movies. It could have been like a great trilogy.
Fair enough. Yeah. I would agree with that. When I watched it, I think everything was already out, so I watched it in like a few weekends. But yeah. I would say that I don't know if I would have watched the whole thing if it was only on TV. I probably would have got bored.
Yeah, well, I watched it on DVD too because my buddy Ryan let me borrow all 4 of them and so on like that. But and technically, I only really watched it because I remember because I was watching it with my parents and because my mom really wanted to watch it and so on. Because I think it's one of those shows. I think I tried watching it and I turned it off at like episode 4 and I was like, not for me. That was just kind of, I was like, there was some neat stuff in there, but like, not so much. And then, I kind of forcefully watched through all of them and so on. And as I said, there's great moments. And when the moments are good, they're extremely good. But I always felt like that was the thing, is that there's always just like, there's a lot of filler stuff. And sometimes I always wonder, it's like, does everybody see this stuff here? Do people get kind of, do they actually like these characters? Like some of these other ones? Like, I always wonder that, like, is there people out there that think these characters are great?
No, I'm with you there. Yeah. There's just things like in certain shows, thankfully I haven't watched that many that are like this, but The Lost, for example, there are so many things that they just went out in left field, things that they started and never finished, things that they showed you that you were led to believe like were something real like special, fantastic, and they just never do anything with it ever again.
You were just lost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all in the name. That is a show, of course, I watched all the way through, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, I remember seeing a couple episodes of that, and I was just like, no, this is I don't know. It sounds weird. I have a hard time with a lot of the TV. Like, I think about like 90s and back, I really like a lot more TV shows in that era. 2000s and up is kind of when TV shows, I think, and most people say the exact opposite, but I always thought TV kind of lost something in that time period. Not saying there isn't.
I like a lot of the older flicks too. I mean, older TV shows. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it was just a lot more actors and actresses like needed to try a lot more or something, and maybe people were still trying to make a name for themselves, so they were trying a lot harder with directors, writers, so on and so forth. Because nowadays you see a lot of actors and actresses kind of doing the same thing over and over and over. We've talked about it before, like Chris Hemsworth plays Thor. No, he doesn't. He plays Chris Hemsworth.
He puts on an accent a little bit for Thor.
But
just a little bit more than the Australian accent.
But that said, going back,
John
Rambo.
Like, it's speaking of Stallone. Have you ever watched that Stallone TV show, the Tulsa King one?
Mm-mm.
I'll say it's one of those shows where Stallone's great in it because he's Stallone. He's always going to be charming and everything like that. Some of the side characters, they're actually not too bad in there, but it still has that like weakness. Like, I remember like the first season, I haven't seen the second one, but like there's like a biker gang, but like the biker gang seems so unthreatening. Maybe just because I don't know, I see through it and it's almost like I got a little bit of a suspension of disbelief. I'm like, these are just a bunch of like actors trying to act tough, like in a sense. Like I don't feel a real dread from it and so on like that, but that one's what I'll say is like it's a mixed match, right? I feel like it's kind of like it's half good. There's nothing terrible.
A show I wish didn't get canceled was the Evil Dead show.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect example of the most modern show I can think of that I thought was 100% dialed in. The episodes are only half an hour long. There's always good action in every single one. The story's always moving. There's no bad characters. Like everything about that was great.
And of course, they canceled it.
Yeah, is that well? It's like a good restaurant. You ever notice that like the best restaurants never last?
They're only around for so long.
But all the mediocre ones go forever.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's almost
and still walking around.
Yeah, it's like one of those ones. Whenever there's an extremely good restaurant, it's like it's probably got a couple of years if it's lucky, But like the restaurant, people are like, oh, I love this place, favorite thing ever. It's like
you go there and you're like, dude, this is just okay.
Yeah, you might as well just go to fast food. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's got no flavor here or something. But yeah, one of those ones. But yeah, we still got a couple more Rambos left, and go through those. And yeah, as I say, I still think about it though, like what there could have been for a Rambo in the '90s. I feel like you'd have to put one of those ones where Rambo just happened to be in a situation. It would probably
Rambo in Bosnia, Rambo in Iraq.
It would be like a Rambo, like Die Hard, like movie where like Rambo's like on an air flight or something like that, and
I think Bill Clinton invaded Haiti for like an hour.
Yeah,
in the '90s. It could have been a Rambo, Rambo short.
Yeah, exactly. There could have been something there. Bill Clinton calls on Rambo like, "Oh, secret mission for you."
What's hilarious about that? Actually, my U.S. history teacher was showing us. Bill Clinton had these photos done up, this photo op with this whole like Haiti operation. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It was a really stupid thing. Like we invaded Haiti for like a day. Like it was something real dumb. And it's like, what do they have? A tank? You know, like,
Yeah.
but he had this photo up, and he had his pictures taken, like how Kennedy had. John F. Kennedy had his pictures taken during the well,
Bay of Pigs?
but during the Bay of Pigs, and so Clinton's kind of doing the same poses, looking at the same stuff as Kennedy for this stupid Haiti image. It seems like such a Bill Clinton thing.
Yeah, just need a little bit of activity in the day. It was getting bored on that Tuesday.
Monica wasn't around.
Yeah, she took off, like she had like a little leave of absence. She had to go visit her family or something. So he invaded Haiti.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, Rambo 3. I think it's one of those ones. I still think it's always worth watching. I think that there's action galore in it. You know, it's something kind of different. I don't know. I'm always kind of like, it sounds weird. I'm always very partial to whenever there's a 3 in a title. Something in my mind makes me feel like I should like this more because there's a 3. I don't know why that is. And I've always gravitated like, oh, Rambo 3, Lethal Weapon 3, you know, Indiana Jones 3. You know?
Yeah, I'm always used to. I always feel like I'm gonna like the first movie out of a trilogy the best. Mm-hmm. I always feel like I'm gonna like the first movie out of 2 better than the sequel. Like I don't know why I always have this idea. In this case, I love First Blood Part 2. I don't think Rambo 3 is a bad movie. I think it's a great movie. It's not my favorite out of the 3, but I think it's worth watching, especially if you're going to continue with the franchise and go on about it and everything. I love that he still has Kobau's little ripped piece of clothing that he wears on his head. I feel like that's
exactly.
Be dirtier.
Oh, he does switch the headband though, because the headband, he has the red one at first, and then he puts a black one on when he goes to Afghanistan. You know, I mean,
Forgot about that.
He wants to be undercover. You know, so he does that, and of course that little kid, you know, he gives him the necklace. You know, after the kid asks him like 15 times for it, and it's like, well, you got shot in the kneecaps. I guess you can have it.
Plug up your hole.
That kid will never walk again.
No.
You know, 10 years old, you get blasted in the legs, by a helicopter or whatever it was.
Exactly.
So, he does that and so on. But, I still think the action's there. It's fantastic. It's an interesting historical movie as well, too. You know, it's almost like the pinnacle of, like, 80s actionness to, like, turned up to the max, you know? I kind of wonder how many other movies are kind of, like, bigger than Rambo 3 in the 80s when I think about it.
Probably not many. Yeah. Crocodile Dundee 2.
Yeah, definitely money-wise. It's weird because that Crocodile Dundee, if I remember correctly, almost even has Rambo vibes in it. He literally like fights people and so on in that film, like more than normal. Like, you know, the first Crocodile Dundee was kind of like, it's kind of like a halfway like adventure kind of romance movie with comedy elements. Almost. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And then I want to say the second one. It's been a moment since I've seen the second one, but I want to say like the action.
I've never seen the second one. I think I've only seen the first one and the one in L.A.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I like all 3 of them, but I have to pull those ones out again too.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll be back for Rambo 4, the 2008 one. Good times of when like the cinema was just guaranteed of glorious violence and gore, and Rambo set that forth. And it's pretty much the last extremely violent time of movies, I felt like. But we'll get all into that when the time comes. Till then, you can check out all the other Old Man Orange podcasts, along with Silent Evil podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dave Candito. Don't let your friends go to Afghanistan by themselves.
Yeah, it would be bad. Take care.